That's a direct quote from author James Clear, and it describes the exact moment his entire life was turned upside down. See, during his sophomore year of high school, a stray baseball bat hit him square in the face. We're talking a severe brain injury. His road back wasn't going to be some heroic comeback story overnight. Nope, it was all about the surprising, almost unbelievable power of taking incredibly small steps.
I mean, just look at this journey. In 2002, he has this life-threatening injury. A year later, he faces the humiliation of getting cut from the team he loves. But then, slowly, through these tiny, consistent habits, we're talking in the gym, with his studies, even just his sleep schedule, he started to rebuild. By 2006, he's voted team captain. And a decade after that, his ideas about this very process are reaching millions. This comeback story, well, it's the foundation for a truly revolutionary idea.
And that brings us right here, to our explainer on his game-changing book, Atomic Habits. The whole idea is so simple, but it's also incredibly profound. Real, lasting change comes from the compound effect of hundreds of tiny decisions you make every single day.
So let me just ask you this. What if you could forget all about these massive, life-altering goals and the need for some kind of heroic willpower? What if, instead, there was a simple, repeatable formula you could use to just get 1% better every single day? Well, that's the promise we're going to unpack right now.
Okay, so let's get into it. The power of 1%. It's a concept that's so easy to dismiss, isn't it? Because we are wired to look for that big, flashy, instant result. But when we do that, we're totally missing the bigger picture. When you actually look at the math here, it's kind of staggering. If you get just 1% worse each day for a year, you basically end up with nothing. Your skills just fade away. But if you get just 1% better, you'll end up nearly 38 times better by the end of the year. It's literally compound interest for your life. Think about it like this, an airplane taking off from LA. If the pilot adjusts the heading by just 3.5 degrees, that's barely noticeable at takeoff, right? By the time it crosses the country, that tiny shift means landing in Washington, D.C. instead of New York City. Your daily habits are exactly the same. A tiny change in your trajectory today can lead you to a completely different destination down the road. So why is sticking with good habits so darn hard? Well, it's because we almost always hit what Clear calls the valley of disappointment. You know what I'm talking about. It's that super frustrating time when you're putting in the work day in and day out, but you're just not seeing the results you expected. This is the danger zone. This is where most people quit, thinking all their effort was for nothing. But it wasn't wasted. It was just being stored.
Here's the perfect analogy. Picture an ice cube in a room that's slowly warming up. The temperature rises from 25 degrees to 26 to 30 to 31. And on the outside, absolutely nothing seems to be happening. But that 1 degree shift to 32 degrees, bam, a massive change is unlocked. All that previous work, all that warming, it wasn't wasted. It was building up potential that just got released in a breakthrough moment. Your habits work the exact same way.
So if these tiny habits are so powerful, how did that actually, work inside our brains? Well, it turns out that every single habit you have, from checking your phone to brewing coffee, follows a really simple 4-step neurological loop. It all kicks off with a cue. Let's say it's your phone buzzing. That buzz triggers a craving, this sudden desire to see who messaged you. The craving leads to a response. You pick up the phone. And finally, you get the reward. You satisfy that little itch of curiosity. That's it. Every habit you have, good or bad, follows this exact loop. And understanding it is the key to creating good ones and, breaking the bad ones.
Now, this 4-step loop is the blueprint for what James Clear calls the 4 laws of behavior change. To build a good habit, you want to make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. For this explainer, we're going to really dive into the first 2 laws because they set the stage for everything else. So let's start with law number 1. Make it obvious.
Here's the truth. Your environment is the invisible hand that shapes almost everything you do. We love to think we're in charge, but so often our actions are just a response to whatever's the most obvious option in front of us. The cookies on the kitchen counter, the TV remote right next to the couch, the phone that's always in your pocket. These are all obvious cues that trigger your habits without you even thinking about it.
Okay, so how do we create an obvious cue for a new habit we want to build? Well, we can use this really slick technique called habit stacking. The big idea is to just piggyback a new habit onto one that you already do without thinking. The end of your current habit becomes the starting pistol for the new one. This simple little formula lets you weave new behaviors right into your daily flow.
You're not trying to find new time or muster up more motivation. You're just linking your actions together. So after you pour your coffee, you meditate for 1 minute. After you take off your work shoes, you immediately change into workout clothes. It's an incredibly practical way to make the cue for your new habit pretty much impossible to miss.
All right, so we've made the cue obvious. That's step 1. Now we need to tackle the second part of the loop, the craving. This brings us to law number 2, make it attractive. Because let's be honest, if a behavior is appealing, we're way more likely to do it. And this all comes down to one very important chemical in our brain.
And that chemical is dopamine. For years, everybody thought dopamine was the pleasure chemical. But what we know now is that it's actually all about anticipation. Your brain gets a hit of dopamine not just when you get the reward, but when you expect to get it. It's that feeling of anticipation that actually drives you to act in the first place.
So we can totally use this to our advantage with a really clever strategy called temptation bundling. All you do is pair an action you need to do with an action you really want to do. By doing this, you make the habit you're trying to build way more attractive because you're bundling it with that dopamine rush of anticipation. Here's a perfect example. Let's say you need to make some sales calls, but what you really want to do is watch sports highlights. With temptation bundling, you make a rule for yourself. You only get to watch the highlights after you've made 3 calls. See how that works? The want becomes the immediate attractive reward for doing the need.
And there's another really powerful way to make habits attractive, and that's by tapping into our basic human need to belong. We are hardwired to imitate the habits of people around us. So if you want to make exercise more attractive, join a running club. If you want to read more, join a book club. It's simple. When the behavior you want is the normal behavior of the group, it becomes incredibly attractive to you too.
But beyond all these practical laws and strategies, there's a much deeper secret to making change stick for good. It goes way beyond just outcomes like losing weight or writing a book. It gets to the very core of who you are as a person.
See, most of us try to change from the outside in. We focus on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. A better approach is to focus on the process, your systems, your habits. But the most powerful way to change, the change that actually lasts, starts from the inside out. It starts with your identity. True behavior change is identity change. The goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner.
And this, right here, is the key insight of the entire book. Your habits are more than just actions. They are evidence. Every time you go to the gym, you're casting a vote for, I'm a healthy person. Every time you write one page, you cast a vote for, I am a writer. These small habits don't just get you results, they literally shape your identity. So in the end, real change isn't about some giant leap of willpower. It's about tiny, compounding improvements that act as little votes for the person you want to become. The question then isn't what you want to achieve, but who you wish to be. So I'll just leave you with this. What's one small vote you can cast for your new identity today?